Welcome back to our series on government contracts. Today, we're going to be discussing Part 31 Contract Cost and Principles. Part 31 of the Federal Acquisition Regulation, FAR, outlines the principles and standards for determining and negotiating the cost of a government contract. It covers topics such as allowable costs, unallowable costs, cost accounting standards, and cost principles for contract pricing. Allowable costs are costs that are reasonable, allocable, and necessary for the performance of a government contract. Allowable costs must also be consistent with the principles and standards outlined in Part 31 of the FAR. Examples of allowable costs include direct labor, materials, and indirect costs such as overhead and general and administrative expenses. On the other hand, unallowable costs are those that cannot be charged to the government as part of a contract. Examples of unallowable costs include fines and penalties, political contributions, and lobbying expenses. Cost Accounting Standards Part 31 of the FAR also outlines that must be followed by contractors. These standards ensure that the contractor's cost accounting practices are consistent, reliable, and transparent. Contractors must comply with the CAS in order to be eligible for government contracts. The cost principles outlined in Part 31 of the FAR provide guidance on the treatment of various costs for contract pricing purposes. These principles include the criteria for determining the allowability, allocability, and reasonableness of costs. Contractors must ensure that the costs charged to the government under their contracts are in compliance with these cost principles. In conclusion, understanding Part 31 Contract Cost and Principles is essential for government contractors as it lays out the rules and regulations for determining the cost of a contract. By following the guidelines outlined in Part 31, contractors can ensure that the costs they charge the government are reasonable, allocable, and necessary. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for our next episode on government contracts.